I think in 2026 itself, right, there are more than 90% of the applications, right, which don't follow the basic web content accessibility guidelines.
I know a lot of organizations who are using these incumbent tools and they are okay with this process being automated and only achieving 30% of the success criteria.
That's what we are trying to make it the assessment more comprehensive and cost friendly, right? And how do you increase the overall velocity and how you can get the things done just with a one click.
How will you break it down for the people who don't know much about accessibility?
Accessibility is all about inclusivity.
I think with respect to web application accessibility, right? You hear this term a lot, WCAG, WCAG. What does it mean? What does it stand for?
So WCAG in very simple terms are the guidelines for achieving web accessibility. The full form is Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, and it helps you achieve the accessibility for your web assets.
So let's get into the work itself, accessibility testing now, right? What it takes, how do you go about conducting gap assessment? This morning you probably opened your phone, checked your email, checked out your Instagram feed, read a few headlines, maybe ordered a cup of coffee too, all on the web. And this took you what, about 5 minutes? What if I told you for more than 1 billion people, those 5 minutes are a series of locked doors? Today's conversation is about why those doors are still locked and the people who are quietly working to open them. I am Akshay Aggarwal and this is the ThinkQA Podcast. In today's episode, we are discussing accessibility, what it is, why it matters more than most people ever realize, and how we test for it is actually starting to change. And to walk us through all of it, I am joined by two amazing people who have thought about this more than anyone I know. Head of Accessibility Testing at SDET Technologies, Shivam Dargan, and a man who needs no introduction, Kapil Dev. He's the CEO founder of SDET Technologies. Welcome, both of you. How are you guys feeling today?
Great. Thank you for the introduction, Akshay.
Thank you, Akshay,
Sure.
and excited to be part of this podcast.
Pleasure to have you guys. So before we get into anything technical, for anybody who's listening for the very first time, this word accessibility, how will you break it down for the people who don't know much about accessibility? Shivam?
Okay, so keeping it in a very layman term, accessibility, I would say, is to make your applications or any web asset that you have or any digital asset that you have, making it usable for everyone, irrespective of any sort of abilities. That's what accessibility is. So at its core, accessibility is all about inclusivity.
Kapil?
Yeah,
Do you want to weigh in?
that's true. Like, and you've talked about in your introduction, like, the billions of users are impacted, right? So if you look at the data, there are more than 1.3 billion people actually, right, who are having some kind of disability actually, right? So it's important to be, making sure that, whatever the products, applications, right, or even if we talk about infrastructure and all, right, we take care of the inclusivity actually.
Okay. So how about we start at the very foundation of web accessibility, right? What is web accessibility and what does it mean for a web product to be accessible?
So again, web accessibility is, trying to make your web application accessible in very simple terms. Okay, this is like, let's suppose I'm a user who is differently abled, right? I come onto the application, okay? For some reason, I'm only able to use the keyboard. So I should be able to navigate throughout my website using a keyboard. So that is one part of making your application web accessible.
Yeah. So let's say if we talk about even the usability, which is a bigger umbrella, right? So accessibility is by default part of it. When we talk about, let's make your product usable, right? So it covers like, how you ensure that, that every user, regardless of any abilities and all, is able to access your product applications, right, without any difficulties, right? Those who are using screen readers, right? Those who use the different keyboard navigations and all, right? So this is how it goes for web accessibility too.
Okay. So again, accessibility is inclusivity, right? We
Exactly.
are letting people with different abilities and and we try and avoid this word disability, right? So how do we make them more able to make sure that any application, it serves its purpose not only for the regular users, but also the users with some form of disabilities. You want to touch upon disabilities as a subject because most times we confuse making an application accessible only to cover blindness. What are those other disabilities that we must also take into account?
Okay. Before we jump on to that question, there's one very good point that Kapil made. We were discussing about inclusivity, right? So there has been a misconception that if I'm making an application accessible, it is specifically for people who are disabled, right? Or people who are differently abled.
Right.
When I say that my application is accessible, we are making it accessible for everyone. And what that means is your navigation flows, your user journeys throughout critical user journeys, the color contrast theme and everything. It makes the application accessible for everyone.
Fully usable.
And that is the usability part that Kapil just mentioned.
So does it have anything to do with ease of access too, or is that a component of accessibility?
Absolutely.
Because when you
when it comes to ease of access, it is by default, whatever users are coming to your applications, right? They should have ease to access, right? Regardless of their abilities and all, right? Being even like the regular users too, right? If they are able to navigate it properly versus those who are using screen readers and all, if they are able to navigate it properly, this is how it goes for ease to use actually.
Yeah. It makes the design more intuitive.
Yeah.
Right. It makes your application more clean, and it serves the purpose for everyone.
Right.
Yeah. So that misconception has been in the market for a while now.
Oh, great. I'm glad that, we are breaking down some of those myths here. So while we have to make our web applications accessible, right? But I would like you guys to step back for a moment, right? We come across physical spaces that aren't accessible. Is that also something that, you must take into account? What are your thoughts on making physical spaces more accessible? I know a lot of people, right, putting up infrastructure, your transit, your public buses, all these, your hospitals for that matter, right?
Yeah.
They have to be accessible. They have to be compliant with the different accessibility laws. So I think it's not just related to your web applications or your web products, right? The physical spaces need to be accessible too.
Right.
So do you see that happening a lot, or are we still not up there when it comes to making our physical spaces accessible?
So this is a harsh reality, right? Let's try analyze how many hospitals, or for that matter even schools, do you find wherein you have ramps at the entrance, or even if you have ramps, some spaces are partially accessible. So there might be a ramp, but the road leading to that ramp would not be accessible.
Right.
True.
Right. So, and for that matter, let's also take an example of an ATM. Right? You enter an ATM, you will find that the kiosks are placed so high up that if a wheelchair user enters the ATM, they might not be able to use it.
Right.
Or even for that matter, in the hospitals itself, the corridors are not that broad enough wherein a wheelchair user can easily navigate through. Okay. And when I say partially accessible, there are spaces which are partially accessible, and that is where you relate to the digital accessibility also, because many organizations aim towards just achieving the WCAG conformance, which is not making your product truly accessible. Yeah. Right? And that is where, the real users or the manual part or of manual experts come into play.
And when it goes when we talk about the overall umbrella towards it, ICT, information, communication and technology, right? Wherein you covering software, hardware, right? You're covering up the kiosk, you're going for an ATM, right? So that's where it comes, you are ensuring the fully digital accessibility. Today we're talking about mainly the digital accessibility. Right. So that's where, the ICT, the overall complete umbrella of it, right? Where telecommunication is also being covered part of it actually, right? And like Shivam said, there are hospitals, schools, and all those things which are not adhering to it. But I do see it little changed, right? The people are taking it seriously, and they are considering it. But I think there is still long way to go towards it. If we just talk about web accessibility or just different web applications and all, I think in 2026 itself, right, there are more than 90% of the applications, right, which don't follow the basic web content accessibility guidelines. So you can also take in the similar way the infrastructure part as well.
Right.
Yeah.
I think with respect to web application accessibility, right? You hear this term a lot, WCAG, WCAG. What does it mean? What does it stand for?
Okay. So WCAG in very simple terms are the guidelines for achieving web accessibility. The full form is Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, and it helps you achieve the accessibility for your web assets. It is an internationally recognized standard when it comes to achieving accessibility. It is managed by W3C, which is World Wide Web Consortium. Okay, and the latest version that we have as of now, there have been previous versions as well, but the latest one is WCAG 2.2, and then comes the conformance levels inside it, A, AA, AAA.
Right.
So when you move from A to AA to AAA, your criterias or your requirements become more stringent, and we generally have observed that the organizations aim for AA criteria, as this is the most widely accepted one.
True.
Been working in this industry, I've come across this a lot. I mean, there are different conformance levels, A, AA, AAA. So what is the difference? And like you said, right, most companies aim for AA. Why not AAA? Why not just settle for A?
Okay, so when you move from A to AA to AAA, as I mentioned, that the criteria has become more stringent. AAA is a bit hard to achieve. It comes at the cost of the overall usability as well of the application, which we don't want, because we want the application to be accessible for everyone, irrespective of their abilities. So generally, the organizations stick to achieving AA standards.
So safe to say AA is the benchmark, or are there companies who are aiming for AAA or they're already AAA compliant?
Majority of the companies aim for AA itself. So I would say, yes, AA is the benchmark.
Widely accepted.
Is the industry standard,
yeah,
right? The
widely
de facto
accepted.
standard.
AA.
Okay. There is a compliance side to accessibility as well, right? There are these standards, laws, ADA, EAA, right? Section 508, VPAT, right?
Yeah.
So what are these different standards, and what do they mean for your applications becoming more and more compliant with respect to accessibility?
Okay.
Are these governing laws? Are these just standards? If you could just throw some light on, EAA. There are, for different countries, there are different accessibility standards. I'm sure there is one for the Indian subcontinent too.
Yeah. Okay, so these are standards. So as you mentioned, every country has their own standard. So ADA is Americans with Disabilities Act. EAA stands for European Accessibility Act. Okay, and the technical baseline for each of these laws is WCAG guidelines.
WCAG.
Okay, so ADA also adheres to WCAG. EAA adheres to WCAG 2.1 AA. So these are all laws that help you, come closer to achieving digital accessibility.
Civil Rights Act for the individual countries, actually, right? So ADA goes for US and EAA goes for
European Union. And we have AODA, that's for Accessibility Ontarians.
For Canada side.
Yes, for the Canada side, yeah.
And what is the adoption rate? Right? There are also different categories like ADA Type 2, Type 3.
Title 1.
Title 1, Title 2.
Title 3.
Title 3, right? So are these only on paper, or are companies paying more heed to Title 2, Title 3, different compliances? How are companies across the globe taking accessibility as a subject, as a compliance seriously? What is your take on it? What is the real picture?
I think with the governments of those nations are enforcing it, especially when we talk about ADA, Title 1, Title 2, especially Title 2, which was earlier set to be achieved by, I think, in June
2026.
26. Then it has been extended for a year, like for the companies to achieve it, especially ADA Title 2, right? Public services, state and local governments kind of this includes that ADA Title 2, right? So when the governments are enforcing it, actually the companies are taking it more seriously, especially wherever the public services are being provided, right? So I think right now the companies like for example, if you're taking ADA Title 2 in United States, the company is trying to achieve ADA Title 2 as soon as possible, right? And the more and more requests for assessments are there, actually, right? And more accessibility things are there, right? So, but if we just take it from the act point of view, law point of view, I think this is always going to be this kind of a race, actually, right? Unless the government enforce it, right? The companies are not going to take it that seriously, actually, right?
Which actually brings me to the question: how are these people, and who are those people who are really affected by it, right? I also said in my introduction, and I think that number comes from a study conducted by WHO, that it's close to 1.3 billion people who are affected by it.
Yeah.
What does it look like for them? What do they go through when they are trying to access an application that is not accessible? What does an inaccessible application look like?
I think the simple answer could be like, if I remove my specs, actually, right? If I remove my specs, right, I would have the same kind of, actually, right? So the simple answer to that would be like, if you are using assistive technology today, like in terms of specs, right, the likewise to consider others too, right? And just imagine a city of folks, right, who are just having the different abilities, right? And the folks like who are different from them just enter to the city, right? Just consider that people living with just the wheelchairs and all, right? They would definitely have the entrance gate having it not to that size, actually, right? And if the person who are not using wheelchair enters to that gate, wouldn't be able to enter, right? So just imagine that part, actually, right? So it's all about considering the inclusivity, right? We have to, if we are talking about the equal opportunities, right, then we have to talk about the equal opportunities in the same way, right? So everybody should have that access to those kind of applications. And as the people are getting more when they go beyond 60s, 70s and all, right, they end up having some kind of a disability, right? Color blindness, or they're not able to see to that level, right? And as we are into the digital era, right, everybody is using now these digital applications, right? So we'll have to make sure that those applications are
accessible.
Yeah.
Just last night, I removed my specs and I was like, man, this is scary, right? Without the glasses.
Yeah.
So also, I think I read in an article, I was doing some research on accessibility as a topic, and so this connotation with, we have started calling these disabilities, we have replaced this term industry-wide with people with special abilities.
True.
And I think it is debatable, and I'll tell you why. Because I feel calling disabled people with different abilities, it does sound empowering, right? That we are trying to empower them. But at the same time, the organizations and these applications, right? I mean, what the current status is of these web applications, web products, right? It's okay to use this term disability so that people start taking it more seriously. Corporates start taking it more seriously, because the minute you call it people with special abilities, they think that, okay, it is empowering, right? So let's not pay much heed to making these applications more accessible in that sense.
Yeah, that's I mean,
that's why I use the word debatable.
Yeah, I got it. And I think Kapil and I had a discussion a few days back as well. We refer to, there's a term called PWD, right? We call it as people with disabilities, but we started using as people with determination. I think that is something which empowers them.
Right. And the empowerment is something that, if you take it in any of the example, right, the government also talks about women empowerment, right? And education, and the folks who are, not as...
But my question actually, it was a little different from while I'm saying that, yes, we must empower people with different
Right.
abilities, but at the same time, these corporates or people who are building these products, they find a way out of it because they think that, okay, I mean, calling them just people with different abilities, right, gives them a ticket not to work on the accessibility facet of an application.
Okay.
So you think that it's okay to use the term disability so that it also, it strikes a chord with people, and not really an emotional angle to it, but then it'll make them think. People will actually start to work because when you use this word disability, right, it means that you lack something. So calling them people with special abilities as opposed to calling them, I don't think that you should call them disabled, right? But I think it's important for people to pay heed to it that, okay, we have to make this accessible for people who are not as abled as we are.
Okay.
That is why you would see, I mean, that is why the governments have also started enforcing these laws that, okay, by this date, you have to become compliant.
Okay, I think that is again debatable, as you said, but accessibility begins at the organization level, right? And irrespective, this is my opinion, irrespective of the fact if you call them disabled or differently abled, if I at an organization level start introducing accessibility in my environment, I think it would hardly matter if I call them differently abled or disabled. I'll start building my products right from the inclusivity point of view. So this synonym or this term, whether we call them differently abled or disabled, this would go away if you have accessibility introduced from the very start, right at the core and right at the organization level, and that would, I think, towards the end eventually will help everyone.
Yeah. So the important thing is that discrimination should not happen.
Right.
So whatever the laws are into the different nations, right, they are enforced towards that. At the public services, the private services, right, the discrimination should not happen, right? You use the word whatever you would like to use, right? And you also have to ensure that you are giving that kind of a respect and what matters them most to them as well, right? Yeah.
And I think most people in this industry, they think in accessible application and they think of the next thing that they think of is US lawsuits.
Yeah,
right?
True.
So is it beyond the legal risk? What I mean to ask is that the only risk you're trying to avoid by making your applications accessible, or there is more to it? What is the upside of making an application accessible? While inclusivity is one, what are the other things?
I think apart from the legal point of view, you would end up losing your business, because we talked about there are around 1.3 billion people who are differently abled. Okay, now if your application is not accessible, definitely you will lose your customers. So business point of view also would be affected when it comes to you not making your application accessible. So that is one thing that would come, I think.
Yeah, business impact is there. Like, especially when we talk about the data, 1.3 billion people actually were impacted. And if we go with the business impact as well, with one of the survey, like, it shows that, the UK alone was impacted, right? Around 120 million or 120 billion actually GBP due to, and this was kind of considered as the business loss actually. And if you consider it across the world, it is considered more than 10 trillion actually, right? So which is a big business
Huge
loss,
number.
right? Huge numbers, right? And today, let's say I am able to use the applications, right? The digital applications. What about let's say if at some point of time, when I become older and all, right, I'm unable to use any application, right? So that's where we have to think that everybody gonna be in a stage when going into the old age and all, right?
Right.
So that has to be also be taken into the consideration actually.
That's a very beautiful point.
Yeah.
So we all are able-bodied as of now.
Right.
20 years down the line, or
We are
maybe
not getting any younger.
Yeah, exactly. 30 years down the line, we might be having some sort of disability.
True.
Right? So whatever we are doing today is for our own future selves.
Yeah, that should be the overall aim,
Exactly.
purpose, right? When as a developer, as a tester, or as a product owner, whatever way you are working, right? You have to keep that in your mind,
And
right?
I think this is something that should also, as a product owner, make you think more
Exactly.
about accessibility,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure you guys have sat across the table from product owners who told you that the accessibility has been on the roadmap for years. How do you actually convince them to make it an integral part of their overall product development?
I think, as I said, the people, the clients, and all our wherever we talk to the our prospects and all, right? The people are taking seriously, but still, there are so much gaps actually, right? So probably considering this as just a compliance purpose wouldn't solve the purpose actually, right? They have to make it kind of upstream as part of the development methodology, right? They have to consider it like, because of this AI era and all, right? The security testing or security is being taken into the much considerations, right? Likewise, accessibility should also be considered as the integral part of your development cycles. Otherwise, you end up fixing the issues later stages just to meet the compliances and all, right? If you're working towards meeting the compliances, then of course it could look like to you as a overhead, right? But if you take this as a business opportunity, right, and you take this as a part of your development methodology, then it definitely gonna help you to bring more business as well, right?
Great. So let's get into the work itself, accessibility testing now.
Yeah.
Right? What it takes, how do you go about conducting gap assessment? Right? What does this mean? Accessibility testing. What are you testing for? How are you testing an application to, figure out the gaps? How do you fix them? If you could just walk me through all of it.
All right, I'll just try to sum this up end to end. Okay, when we say accessibility testing, we are testing web applications, documents, mobile applications for that matter. Okay, and we test them against the WCAG guidelines, or we call them success criteria, which are which are sort of individual testable requirements that we have to test. Okay, once we start figuring out the gaps, we pen down the different issues that we observe. We give the dev recommendations, for the developers to fix them, and towards the end, we generate a VPAT report, which is a voluntary product assessment template report, which gives you an idea about where exactly your application stands in terms of the different WCAG conformance levels. So that is a very a flow kind of end to end.
Absolutely, that's an end-to-end flow.
So, and I think I'm sure you guys use a lot of automated scanners too, or is it part manual, part automated? Because I have also, come across some scanners that would give you a quick accessibility compliance score, so to say, right? So, should we be using those automated scanners? Are there any pitfalls?
Yeah,
Right.
there are scanners available in the market, like, and the teams are using it too, like, across the industry. But the challenges with the automated scanners comes in, like, there are so many false positives, and they just provide 30%, 40%, like, and it is, when I'm saying 30%, 40%, maximum is something that I'm saying 40%. Majority of the time I heard that, the experts are able to use it 25%, 30% somewhere, right, to get the out of it. And that's where, you need still the manual assessment, right? The experts comes into the picture, right? So for example, with us, like, we are also having the folks who are, differently able, right? Who are helping into do the final review from the real user perspectives. Additionally, what we did is, like, to overcome this particular challenge, to, when you do the automated scans, and this is widely known into the industry, that you will definitely get false positives. If the scanner is going to give you 80 issues, right, there would be 15, 20 issues that you would see are valuable to what you were looking actually. That's where we have developed AccessiGO platform, which basically covers till now, that's into the beta phase, and that covers 75% of success criteria, and that gives more than 70% 70 to 75% of the accuracy. when I'm saying accuracy, the overall out of 100, but out of 75%, the success criteria that we have automated, it gives you the 100% accuracy, right? No zero false positives, right? So that also helps you to create the VPAT reports automatically as well, the defect reports, right? It gives you the development recommendations as well, right? So something that, we are building towards, making the accessibility assessment more easy, more cost friendly, and, the faster, which basically you can have such kind of products to be integrated with your development life cycles in your pipelines actually, and gives you the results immediately actually.
Oh, this is amazing. So you guys have built AccessiGO, where the industry benchmark was only 30-35%, right?
True.
That it would only give you, using these automated scanners, it would only give you 30-35% coverage, so to say, right? While AccessiGO, you guys are promising that it offers more than 70% coverage of success criteria, right?
And out of those success criteria, right, whatever we have implemented, there is zero false positives actually.
This is amazing.
That's what we do, right? You still need to do some kind of manual assessments, and you need to involve the experts, especially like Shivam, CPACC, and there are other experts, CPACC, DHA and all, right? They definitely need to do that actually. And when you're doing the assessment, quality engineering, right? Even if you talk about AI factor as well, right? The human in the loop is always going to be there, right? The assessment, manual assessment is always going to be there, because anyhow, the quality engineering that you are doing for those applications are finally being used by the humans itself, right? So you have to involve them.
Absolutely.
Right? So, but it is making the overall velocity for more than 60%. When I'm saying overall velocity, you test those things, right? But the remaining things, you just put the experts there and you get the things done actually.
One thing that Kapil mentioned, right? The manual factor is always going to come in. So for an example, let's suppose there's an image which has an alt text, and my scanner would definitely be able to recognize if it has an alt text or not. But what about the context? The context part is definitely need to be taken care by a human, a manual engineer, or an accessibility expert for that matter. And let's suppose I go to the application, right? I start using my tab key, navigating through, using my keyboard. How would an automated scanner decide what exactly is the logical flow, right? Of navigating through the application. So that is where the accessibility experts come into
the picture, and they ensure it.
So from a compliance standpoint, where these tools, the incumbents, right, they would only offer 30% coverage, and AccessiGO has taken it up the notch, and it promises now 70% coverage, right? And for those remaining 30% bracket, right? You have manual experts, you have people, I also want you guys to touch upon that we have a skilled team of people who are differently abled, right?
Yes.
And they do test the real applications, giving you a real user's feedback. They use assistive technologies, I believe so.
Yes.
Right. So can you...
So at SDET Tech, the approach that we have used for doing audits or doing assessments is that we follow a hybrid approach, wherein the initial first round we use AccessiGO for an initial scan. We get the results out, and then we have our experts, our accessibility experts coming into picture. Now once this is done, we hand over the entire application to our people with determination, PWDs as we call them, and they are the ones who are the actual screen reader users, right? We have received inputs at times from them which even our accessibility experts were not able to capture. So this is where they become a big value add, because they test the application in real time. They have the real sense of how to use a screen reader and how it actually helps them navigate through the entire application.
And that's where the usability umbrella is actually,
right?
Even for the normal different applications, right? If you are ensuring that your real users are able to provide you the feedback, that's where you add the value actually.
Great. And the output that it produces is a VPAT report.
That's a conformance report.
That's a conformance report,
right?
Why does it even matter to organizations, this VPAT?
It helps organizations, decide where exactly they are in terms of achieving the web accessibility.
what are the success criteria and sections which are being supported, and what are those which are not being supported, right?
How many are those success criterias?
For WCAG 2.2 AA conformance, there are around 56 of them. Okay, and once you start listing them down in the VPAD, you have partially supports or not supported against each of them based on the results that we've received through the assessment.
So let's say a product engineer is listening to this podcast and they say that we are already running accessibility scans. I'm sure, there are a lot of open source and there are some, commercial accessibility scanners too. So how do you convince them what questions they should be asking you for them to start using AccessiGO as a platform?
I think the people who are just using the the existing scanners and all, and they just run it and they get some results out of it, and they just say that the product is accessible, right? Unless they get the proper assessment done, they wouldn't be able to know where they are lacking actually, right? There were so many cases or so many kind of projects wherein our clients got those things tested from the different their service providers and all, right? And when it comes to us, right, we were able to find the issues which really matters for the real users actually into the accessibility. And now when it comes to AccessiGO, right, that's where it helps you to achieve more than 75% of assessment already done with just a one click away actually, right? So unless they start using it, they would not be able to get the gap where what they are missing actually, right? And when we speak with those prospects or in that way, we try to showcase, demo it, and we also want to make it live very soon. Till now we were just using it for our existing clients, right? Because that's where we are known to add value actually, right? For us, our existing clients are we may not go into the market to acquire new clients, but the first thing that we do is all our existing clients are happy with what we are delivering to them, meeting their expectations. Likewise for our existing employees as well, right? That's the kind of a theory that we work. That's in our value. That's in our purpose as well. That's our, something that we are working towards it for more than last 6 to 7 years now.
This is amazing. So I myself have used a couple of these scanners, and sometimes it gives you a perfect score, right? 80% compliance score, 90% compliance score. So how is AccessiGO trying to make a difference there? Because still, that 30% job is still on the shoulders of real accessibility testers, right?
Yeah.
So, but that ceiling has gone up, right, from 30% to 70%. So what does that 30% take for your application to be completely accessible? While AccessiGO, right, this is a great effort, right? And this should be celebrated. But at the same time, what about those 30% or the gaps that would fall under the 30% bracket?
The overall the aim would be we are able to achieve take this product to achieve 100% compliance, right? In terms of having each and every success criteria to be met. But still there is going to be a requirement for the assessment from the experts as well, right? The certified experts and all, right? Which definitely gonna be very less than it's all about how you increase the velocity, how do you ensure the cost effectiveness and all, right? And right now when we do the assessment against those 75% assessment, the remaining 25% assessment, you already know that what are those criteria which we've not tested, or those being tested through this particular platform, right? Then you test it, right? So still you are able to increase, as I said, the overall velocity is increased more than 60%, right? And that is what our aim is, just to increase it step by step. Our aim is also ensuring that it should have zero false positive,
Right.
The accuracy should be, what we are calling, where we are saying that, we have achieved 75% success criteria. It means it is able to test it thoroughly, actually, right? The assessment is comprehensive, right? And instead of you end up saying that, it can do everything, but still you are able to get 30% out of it, actually, right? So it is okay to say what you have achieved, right? And it is okay to say what you're going to be achieving in the future and how do we plan to achieve it.
So there's a roadmap plan to increase this,
still working,
increase the
progress.
coverage as
Exactly.
well as improving the accuracy of this product going forward.
True.
This is great. Shivam, can you think of any critical gap that you would witness, because you have been on the audit side for years, right? Because still, I mean, I know a lot of organizations who are using these incumbent tools and they are okay with this process being automated and only achieving 30% of the success criteria. What is that? Are there any critical gaps that you saw that earlier you would only could find using auditors or using manual testing, manual accessibility testing? So any critical bug that AccessiGO is trying to find out, and it has now, because you are achieving 70%, 75%, you're meeting the success criteria.
So the reason that we have been able to increase the coverage from 30-40% to 70-75% is that at the code level, whatever code has been written, it has been written in such a way that we, whatever the success criteria were, initially we're not able to find through scanners, we tried somehow getting into the depth of these success criteria and understanding what exactly needs to be checked from the DOM point of view. So when I use a scanner, what it does is it crawls through your page and then it runs through your DOM and tries figuring out the elements where the failures are, right? But in contrast to this, okay, as I earlier also mentioned, let's suppose I'm using a scanner which is giving me 30-40% of coverage, or for that matter even accuracy. I get an error message. Okay, my scanner tells me yes, there's a violation, but yes, you also have an error message. Okay, I understand there's an error message, but is it correct? Is that error message actually making sense to the user? So this is where your 30% or 25% for that matter manual efforts would come into play.
Got it.
Okay. And for AccessiGO as well, since I said that we are around 70-75%, the rest of the success criteria are still a work in progress, and we are trying to see what's the best coverage we can get out of it.
Taking the accuracy into the context as always.
Yes.
Also,
Right. Then the beauty of this platform is this is being built by who are experts into the accessibility only since so many years, right? Even the development team, even the testers, the product owners himself, being managed by Shivam itself, right? And I also myself know the accessibility for almost I would say 14 years now, right? So something very close to my heart as well, right? And that's what we are trying to make it, the assessment more comprehensive and cost friendly, right? And how do you increase the overall velocity and how you can get the things done just with a one click, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
You said 14 years, right? You have spent on this subject, and Shivam, you've been working on accessibility for more than a decade now.
Yeah.
Right.
And I was introduced to accessibility
right.
by
So
Kapil.
it's not just procedural to you guys, right?
Yeah.
It's personal. So can you think of any incident that actually pivoted your mindset to that, okay, you want to pursue this and you want to work, on accessibility, spreading more awareness about accessibility? Can you think of any incident that actually changed your thought process about accessibility?
Being more of a process and being personal, I think we already discussed it. I don't want to, having that pain wherein in my, old age, I'm not able to make a simple banking transaction using my app, right? So that was a personal awakening for me, wherein, whatever I'm doing today, or whatever we at SDET Tech are doing today in terms of accessibility is for our own future selves.
Yeah.
So that was the personal touch, which gave me, okay, so you need to think it from that point of view as well.
And I met with several folks like in my last, I would say in the decade, those they've chosen this accessibility field actually, right? Helping to have those applications to be accessible and ensuring that inclusivity and all, right? And they have chosen it because they also being touched by somewhere in their family and somewhere, right, wherein they have personally seen the situation or that case, where they really wanted to add value towards it actually, right? So yeah, and it is all about what Shivam said, just consider it your own future as well in the right, and you never know, at when you become old, right, you are so much on your mobile now, doing everything online, right, then how you going to make your life easy at
Right.
when you reached on that number actually.
So, what do you guys think? What can the organizations, what can the governments do better to create more awareness, make their applications, web products more accessible? Because still, like you said, the adoption rate is minimal,
Yeah.
right? So, how should we do things differently? What should be done differently to make sure that more people pay heed to accessibility as a subject? Because everyone is getting older. You're
Yeah.
not getting any younger.
Yeah, I think
What should we do better as a society?
as a society, that's where we have to all understand, the what exactly the inclusivity means is actually, right? And if you all start thinking that way, actually, if we only think when something happens in our life, then then it couldn't not going to help actually, right? You have to see it from your the different infrastructure point of view, from the different digital application point of view and all, right? And how could you add value from those usability aspects and all, right? And especially when it goes if you're talking about ADA Title 2, right, American Disability Act, right, it talks about public services, state and local governments. So
Right.
they are first taking care of at their government level,
Yeah.
right? And they would definitely would be focused on Title 3 as well, right? That comes for the private things as well, right? So when the government are enforcing it, then definitely it is going to be considered to that way. Even in India too, you must have heard that High Court, or I think have instructed the companies like the Ford ordered companies, where you do the e-commerce and all, right, the quick e-commerce, right, they have to make sure that their applications are accessible actually, right? And so much accessibility is happening in India as well, we've been testing kind of applications, right, where the accessibility is happening, right? So it's everyone's responsibility to think that way. If we're just gonna think it from the compliance point of view, then there wouldn't be any other options,
Right.
unless you realize it yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
From the society point of view, just to add on what Kapil said, I think awareness is one thing which needs to be brought in.
Mm-hmm.
Days like GAAD or Global
True.
Accessibility Awareness Day,
Right.
which needs to be talked about in the society, and this is just the start, right? Physical spaces should be made more accessible to begin with.
Yeah, I remember because you and I went to this conference. I'm not going to name the conference,
Yeah,
and it has become so cerebral to you, right? That you were noticing accessibility issues
Exactly.
everywhere,
Yeah.
right?
I think we talked
while
about,
entering
yeah.
we did talk
Yeah.
about it, and so I understand that. I mean, it is a deeply personal topic for you.
Awareness is something
Awareness,
that has to
right.
happen. Definitely, I agree with Shivam, what
Right.
Shivam said.
And about GAD, right? Global Accessibility Awareness Day.
Yes.
Right. It is celebrated on 21st of May.
This year. Yeah.
This year, right?
Yeah.
What is the theme this year, and what does it mean for the accessibility community?
I think the theme this year is develop, deliver,
Right.
something on that sort.
Right.
On that note, I'm not exactly sure, but it's a big day for folks making a big contribution into accessibility. It is, a day wherein people talk about accessibility more and try to create more awareness about it. Yeah.
This is great. So, for anyone listening, right, we spoke about AccessiGO as a platform.
Mm-hmm.
For anyone listening who wants to understand where their product stands when it comes to accessibility, what can AccessiGO offer?
I think the something that we keeping as part of AccessiGO is like, you just put your URL, right? It's a 4 steps process, just a minute process, right? You would be able to get your actual score out of it, where you are with your application's accessibility score, right? And then you plan it how you want to take it to make the application accessible actually, right? So that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Right. And if you won't get the assessment done completely, that's what it offers.
And just to add on one more point, AccessiGO, the tagline we used was unified accessibility platform, because it, apart from web accessibility, it also gives you the option to check for your documents,
document accessibility,
and also generate alt text. So and we have a lot of things that are also coming up as part of this platform itself.
And I think before this podcast, right, you also told me that with AccessiGO, what we are aiming for is achieving conformance, accessibility conformance beyond compliance. So it's not just about adhering to all these different standards and laws, right? So it is about making your application
truly accessible.
Right? So if the listener takes only one thing away from this podcast, according to you, what is that one thing that they should take away?
I think from my point of view, like, we talking about digital application, that's where we come, web applications, mobile apps and all, right? The accessibility should be considered as part of upstream actually into the software development methodology, instead of, just looking at from compliance purposes and taking those fixes into the later stages and all, right? So that's one thing that I would like to say. But, definitely, not every product is being developed from the initial phase, right? There are products which are already in the market, right? And they won't take care of the accessibility, right? That's where we can help, like, making sure that, all of our experts or the AccessiGO platform, which helps to do the quick assessment for those applications. And, we can be part of their journey to achieve those, that accessibility for their products and platforms.
Great. And you, Shivam?
For me, I think one takeaway from this entire podcast would be for folks who are working into development, right? Or even the QAs, inclusivity is one word that, has made a great impact on me. So if I'm a developer, I should design in such a way, wherein I'm considering the inclusivity right from the start. As a QA, I should understand that what accessibility means and how I can, get hold of those issues which are easily missed. So inclusivity is important, and that is one thing a person should take away from this entire podcast.
Amazing. Thank you, both of you.
Thank you.
So that's a wrap on this episode of the ThinkQA podcast. Thank you.
Thank you, Akshay.
Thank you, Akshay.
So here is what stays with me from this conversation. Accessibility isn't a problem that you can solve in one global accessibility awareness day or with one product or one quarter. It is a practice, and people who treat it that way will have built something that lasts for years. To all the product designers, developers, engineers, or even if you just write checks, there is going to be a free scan at AccessiGO whenever it goes live. Check it out. It'll take only 90 seconds for you to understand where your product actually stands. So until then, design, develop, deliver. This was the ThinkQA podcast. Thank you.